Yesterday, I shipped something, this thing behind me, that wasn't finished, and which also, on one of these, on a phone, looks like a piece of crap. Let me show you. So, as you can see, on the phone version, the particles aren't working at all. It's just going like that. And also, the particles don't display, like they kind of mess with the text. Okay. Now, this isn't ideal, but I knew this was the case and I still shipped it anyway. Now, I believe that this was the right choice because if we look at this page, yeah, it's working well enough. I mean, there's lots of things about it I would like to improve, but what this is about and why I shipped it. I mean, I even emailed a list of 12,000 people to the video where I launched this thing. So this is live and going to people, knowing full well that it's not finished. Now, before I say anything else, unfinished is not unsafe. So there are lines here when I'm talking about unfinished with regard to software and code. So one thing I do ensure, so this is the disclaimer. One thing I absolutely do ensure when I'm talking about things that are unfinished is that the blast radius of the things that are unfinished are not going to be unsafe for the people who are interacting with what I'm making. The only thing that the things that are unfinished really affect are the user experience and maybe a little bit of confusion. Okay. So that's really, really important. But what I want to talk about today is how this reminds me so much of music. Because when I started making music back in 1994 and releasing records, if you'd have told me that Aphex Twin would release all of his, well, maybe not all of his music, but like over 200 pieces of sketches and unfinished things on SoundCloud. In fact, the whole idea of SoundCloud, where lots of musicians can release unfinished work, would have been absolutely insane to me. I'd be like, well, you can't do that. You can't release things that are not finished. That's a terrible idea. Why would you do that? And it may well be the case that we're in a similar situation right now with software. Because while, I mean, I can say that this is finished to a certain extent for a desktop, it's certainly not finished in terms of user experience, in terms of the user interface for a phone. And the majority of people are probably going to be accessing it on a phone. But here's the thing. Finished is actually a meaning that we put on something. We decide when something is finished. And one of the reasons that in 1994 for music, finished had to mean it was a much higher bar, or, you know, when I say finished, ready for somebody to look at was a much higher bar, was simply the cost that it took to make the thing and also distribute the thing. Because I mean, could you imagine me pressing up onto a record 290, however many pieces of music Aphex Twin put out? Do you imagine him pressing those up onto a record? Because actually putting it out onto a record would cost him money, right? So it's a big risk, right? Whereas just slinging something up on SoundCloud, it's a much lower bar. And this is now what's happening with software, in that the cost of actually producing it is much lower. And I mean, it's not exactly the same, obviously, because everything in software is digital, but it's becoming much, much easier to distribute and get things like this up, websites, apps up. Again, I will draw the line at where you are being unsafe in terms of your users and yourself, of course. But, for example, here, one of the things I haven't done is actually set up an email which will send them the link yet. So immediately, and, usually when you sign up for a free workshop, you immediately get a link saying, welcome, and here's the workshop. I actually haven't set up the response email yet because it involves just a bit of jiggery pokery that I haven't done yet. So instead, what I did to get it out was simply add this message. I'll see you on the session and send you an email with a link closer to the time. I'm building in public, so I'm still figuring out the send confirmation email automation, so you won't get one immediately. Okay. Now, why am I doing it like this? Why am I shipping when it doesn't work on mobile and when I haven't actually set up the email? I've got a very clear priority order in terms of what's important at the moment. Number one, what is safe, what isn't going to cause a problem in those terms is absolute priority. Number two is, does it do the job given the job I'm doing? Now, obviously, a lot of what I'm doing here is about building in public. Okay, so it's part of the job that I am doing. So, I'm showing, for example, how all of this kind of stuff is working, right? And that it's almost like that then becomes part of the thing. So actually, I probably would rather not have shipped an unfinished thing, but it's almost like I'm actually doing the thing that I am talking about. So that's number one. It's actually doing part of the job by showing the process of doing it. I am right now sorting it out so that these particles don't just bunch up on an iPhone screen like that, by creating a different process, a different set of settings for a mobile screen. But I didn't start building that until I needed it. And this is the other thing. It's really about, like, one of the ways of getting yourself over the line in terms of moving forward is what I call the gap. So now this thing is out. Now there are thousands of people, hundreds of people going to this page. It has created a gap for me, which I need to fill because I'm like, oh, I've got to sort this thing out. So I didn't build the different screen resolution feature in my website building or whatever, my canvas, I call them canvases. I didn't build that beforehand. Yeah, I built it when I needed it. And you might ask, well, why don't you just sort everything out? Aren't you just being lazy? The thing is, though, that this is an endless rabbit hole, just like making music is an endless rabbit hole, because you saying it's good enough, it's almost like, it's like the horizon that never will, like, you can never get to it. It keeps on, the closer you get to it, the further it gets away. So you have to draw the line somewhere. And that involves, as I said before, saying to yourself, okay, so here are the hard red lines. Safety, does it do the job? Can people actually sign up? Yes, we might lose some people. Yeah, some people might complain and say, oh God, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. I don't care about that because I'm building in public. I'm actually doing the thing. It's demonstrating what I'm talking about. And also it's demonstrating the difference now between the assumptions from before, when software was very hard and very expensive, versus now when it's cheaper and easier. This is going to happen more and more. And at this point, for me, and for you, in fact, for various different reasons, me actually showing that we need to get things out and move forward and create those gaps that we then need to fill as quickly as possible because people are actually watching it. Because, I've got an enormous amount of motivation now to actually get this sorted. We need to create those gaps in order to keep the machine going, in order to keep on shipping. Because, yes, now there were really three constraints that I think there are now. I'm just going to close these. That I'm finding them very distracting, these pins, hide pins, right? That's what you will see when you come to the page, right? So when in a situation where now software, websites, apps is much easier to create, much quicker to create, easier to distribute. I now know how to put things up, or at least the weird machines I work with know how to, and they do it for me. Now that I can do that, the constraints have shifted because many, many more people can do this. It's been democratized. That means that my imagination, creating something different is very important because thousands and thousands of people are going to do it. Just slinging something up on an app store, if I create an app and hoping for the best, that's not going to work. It just isn't going to work. Apparently, Apple are really struggling to review all of the new apps that are coming on there. So that's not going to work. So imagination is important. Distribution is important. As I said, thousands of apps on the App Store. You need to differentiate yourself, but also you need to know how you're going to reach your people, right? Which is precisely what I'm doing here with these daily build stream videos. But in terms of actually the building part, what is absolutely essential, like the constraint now is how fast can you move? Now, this is my least favorite constraint to work with, to be honest, although it's kind of the one I'm probably most experienced in because my thing with making music was make much better music much more quickly. But really, with the execution side of it, it is kind of a race to the bottom because at the end of the day, you can only go so fast. Having said that, though, with agents and with actually building the systems, which I've been doing in order to be able to do much more, maybe it isn't so much of a race to the bottom. Maybe we can do much more. But certainly, in terms of building something and building a business, the speed at which you can get things out is that's really a differentiator. If I can consistently improve the products and the experiences and give people a consistently better experience over and over again, well, that in itself is a kind of locus of value. And it's, again, the parallels with what I've went through with the music industry and music are striking. The same constraints are now appearing in software because you really got to think through. And I think a lot of people aren't doing this. What changes when something becomes easier to make and quicker, cheaper to make and distribute, to build and distribute? What changes? Because the old way of developing and releasing software, whether you like it or not, I didn't decide this, is going to change. It is changing. It has already changed. And those who get that, those who think it through, and those who think, all right, so what does that mean for how I'm going to do this? The approach that I'm going to take, those are the ones who are going to win. Which is why I shipped something that looked like such a piece of crap on a mobile phone yesterday, and also why I need to stop rabbiting on this video and get on with fixing the problem. So, with all that said, onwards and upwards.